This video is for educational purposes only. This video is not a recommendation to buy or sell a security. This should not be considered investment advice. It is important to do your own research before making any investments. Hi everyone, welcome to Trader Talk with Disciplined Mind Trading. My name is Bobby.
Steve.
And for this week, our topic, the steps necessary to become a trader and if it is for you. So the real reason that I decided to do this topic was I've just noticed, look, with how profitable this past year has been, I find many people asking themselves and asking me, like, hey, should I trade? Should I trade stocks? Is this something that I should get into? So if you're one of those people, our goal is to answer this question for you. You know, should you be trading and what does it take and the necessary steps to go through that process? If you're one of our regular viewers, if you're already a trader, then I hope this could be a tool for you because I am sure that Steve and I are not the only people with how this market has been going that have been getting emails, texts, phone calls from friends, family, random people just saying, I want to get into trading. How do I do so? Or should I do this? How do I invest in the market? So hopefully this could be a tool that you could share with them and answer some of those questions for those people. For you guys joining us for the first time, subscribe, turn on notifications. We do this as well as a quick wrap, which is a weekly market recap. And then we'll also go through stocks every single week, both on a chart and a company basis. And thank you to all those who have been subscribing. I know this past week we've had a ton of subscribers, over 20 new people. So we really appreciate everybody that's joining us. But yeah, let's jump right on into it. To start things off, just wanted to read a quick statement. If you can read and if you have internet, you can learn to trade. And the reason I put that is there because I will tell you before I had this conversation with Steve, I believe that I just did not have the mental capacity because I was not a big finance or math person through school or at all, well, high school or college. So that's not the case. It's something you can teach yourself. So as long as you put in the work and you're honest with yourself and you don't give up, you can 100% do this.
Can I stop you right there?
Yeah.
You guys don't know how much easier you have it with YouTube and Twitter and access to it's the most amazing thing to me in the whole entire world is how different and how much easier it is to learn to trade and how quickly you can accelerate this process because of all the different tools that are out there. When I started trading, I read How to Make Money in Stocks. I was using graph paper because at that time nobody had it really compute. Yeah, no, graph papers. And then I was getting, one day I got to look for these books, the green books that they talk about, the daily graph book, which came in a book. You didn't have weekly charts in them. It was just such a different world. And you didn't have the access. The only information I had, truthfully, was my daily, and it was at that time it was called Investors Business Daily, that was coming, and I would just obsess and sink into that thing with all my might, and that was it.
Yeah, different world now where I could listen to an earnings call, I could be looking at charts, and I could be listening, have all this data up on my screen and just sitting here at home.
Yeah, but then you also get podcasts with all these different people. You get to see their Twitter feeds. Here, I'll give you an example. The podcast or Twitter feed that I would get was like once a year. O'Neill would come out to New York, and there would be a what do you call a seminar?
Yeah.
And then because I was so poor at the time, I didn't have the money to go to level 2 or level 3, which I probably should have done years ago. I should have just invested the money because it was so well worth it. But yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Well, so as long as you put the work in, you can do it.
Yep.
All right. So for the agenda, just so you guys have a quick idea of what we're going to be going through. First, we're going to talk about some questions that you should be asking yourself if you're thinking about getting into trading. Then we'll talk really quickly about some of the different types of trading out there, how to pick a strategy, how to learn that strategy, execute it, and then just what the overall process is really going to be like learning how to trade. And then finally, just to cap everything off, we'll give a quick talk about CanSlim strategy, which is the strategy that we use. All right, so first, questions to ask yourself. The first thing is, how much time do you realistically have. And you got to be honest with yourself, between your job, between your family, and between your hobbies, anything else that consumes your time of every single one of your days, what time is left over to do something like this, and what amount of time are you willing to add to basically allocate to trading? Steve, I guess weigh in on time for us, because
Time is something that is probably one of the most under thought about parts of this, because people don't understand how time consuming this can be, to do it, particularly when you're starting. Like
yeah, I was
if
just gonna
people,
say that.
like, because I'll give you an example. When we first started doing this, you were amazed that I knew every single company. 3 years later, I mean, you know pretty much every company that I know. Like, you
I
couldn't
literally,
believe.
it boggled my mind to sit there and I'd be like, oh, I found a company, and I name it, and you'd be like, oh, and you know about it, and I'm like, how does he know all this? But now, fast forward almost 4 years later, I'm like, oh, now I know how, because you're doing this every day and you see the same company. So
Yep.
it's just putting in the work. So it's just a lot less you have to do the more and more you as
the,
time
the
progresses.
greatest podcast that I've ever heard that changed my whole entire mind, and I've discussed this a million times probably on the podcast, is Tom Basso talking about how to work and to
Yes,
trade at the exact same time. It's freaking amazing. And basically,
I'll tweet that
yeah,
this week
yeah,
actually.
basically what he talks about, and we've talked about this before, is you have to find a
Balance.
philosophy that's going to fit the amount of time that you have allocated for free time with your trading habits. It's just, if you try to pick a habit or a philosophy of trading, that you have to like read every single earnings report, and you're going to have no time to do anything else, and your life is
Yeah.
going to suffer. So
Yeah. So it comes down to two things. It comes down to the time you have and the time that you are willing to allocate to trading. So uh, that is going to help you determine what type of trading strategy you're going to have. Second, money. How much money do you plan on trading with? And then something that I think some people do overlook is when you're taking a lump sum of money and deciding to trade with that, think about, do you need that money for something else? Do you need it to buy a house? Do you need to pay your bills? Is it an emergency fund? Or is it just extra money that you have that you plan for retirement? So it's just something to definitely be conscious of. I've heard of people just taking their entire bank account and thinking they're just going to trade it and it's going to work out. And something that I definitely don't suggest if it's something that money that you're going to need, especially when you're learning. What are your expectations or goals? So this is extremely, extremely important. And
can I
there's,
take this?
go ahead.
This is anyone who thinks that they're going to be great at something immediately is a moron. Ready? I'll give you an example. You're not going to be able to run and compete with the greatest runners in the world when you first start running. You're not going to be able to lift weights and lift with the strongest guys in the world. You're not going to start doing jujitsu or MMA and be able to compete with Kamaru Usman or Khabib or any of these guys who are fighting last night. You have to have your expectations. In fact, I'll even say this: there was again, we keep on referring back to the Kovel podcast.
Hmm.
There's a guy, Alexander something or other, a Russian guy, who said this: if you don't expect your first year to suck at trading, you're delusional.
Yeah, yeah. And the last thing that I just want to is it's also part of just what your goals and expectations are, even in returns. And some people's expectations on what they think their returns are going to be, and money wise, what they're going to do, are just not realistic. You have a lot of people on these social media platforms saying you could take $1,000 and make $750 every single week and quit your job. Like, you really have to do a little time to just look at what realistic expectations are in terms of trading and in terms of the strategies that you're looking into. So, um, but yeah, all these questions are going to help you as we start to go through the next few topics and specifically picking a trading system. But the last thing I do want to say is trading is not for everybody, and this is something that you may be watching this and start hearing some of this stuff and say, I just don't think I want to do that, and that's fine. There are plenty of other ways to invest your money and that don't require you to actively trade for yourself. There's other companies and mutual funds and things that will manage your money for you, and you could just put it there and not think about it. So
Okay, stop real quick.
Yeah,
We
I'm
sound
done.
like we're
That's all.
being Debbie Downers. Let me be blunt. Trading
Yeah.
is the most awesome thing I've ever done in my life. It's really just it's so cool. I can't even tell you. You
There's a
learn
reason
you
we sit here and talk about it every
yeah, you
single
you
week.
you learn, and then when you're doing everything right, you make money off of the, exactly what you're applying.
Yeah.
There's nothing I've ever experienced in my life that, other than maybe running or working out, that the input you put in, you see back almost immediately. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the good thing
So,
about trading is it continues to build upon itself, whereas you
mhm.
got to continually to work out, to get better. You're going to be flexing your muscle to trade, but it's a little different. You don't
Yeah.
have to put as much effort the further along you go.
The last thing that and I actually thought it's funny. I was thinking about this like the other week. It's one of the few things where well, you mentioned this statement. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your background is. It doesn't matter what country you live in. As long as you have access to these markets, and look, I know people would be taxes. What at the very core of it, the market is the market, and every single person has the same opportunity in the market. You take money, you have the same opportunity when you put a trade on versus somebody else putting a trade on. The market doesn't know who it is, and it's just something that it's a great thing. And it's one of those things that if you find enjoyment in it, like Steve and I do, it's great that you can really make a living off of something and on your own 100%. Like this is truly the one of the few businesses where you don't have to answer to anybody except yourself. Even if you're a business owner, you always have your customers. You're your own customer, you know? So I just think that's a beautiful thing and one of the reasons why I definitely love this. So continuing on, with that being said, it can definitely really be an overwhelming experience, and I'm sure people are sitting here right now, and just from the little conversation we just had now, are probably a little overwhelmed. But look, just understand that,
Can I stop
um,
you? Everything's
yeah,
overwhelming when you first do it.
yeah, 100%. So everyone will say they know best. There's no best way for everybody. This is just part of the discovery process of finding everything out, and just take some time to just enjoy the challenge that's ahead of you. Block out all the other noise that's out there. Focus on yourself, and again, it's tough in the beginning, but the results are great. It really is something that if you can put the time in, you find some enjoyment out of it whatsoever, the challenge on the other side when you start to see some success is great. All right, so types of trading, just to give a quick overrun, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but just because you're probably hearing a lot of these things as you're looking out there, you got different time frames. You got day traders, which are buying and selling in the exact same day. They're starting every day out in 100% cash, and they're closing all their positions at the end of the day. Then you got swing traders, which are a little longer time frame, um, putting some trades on that could be lasting, a couple days, maybe a week or two. Then you have position trading where there's asterisk there because that's most probably close to what we're doing, where you're really following just the overall trends of the market and of stocks. So you can be selling a position in a couple days, or you could have it for weeks, months, even over a year. And then long-term investing, which is this is your traditional type of like buy and hold type of investing. So that's just some different time frames. And then on the screen you could see you could be doing this with stocks, options, forex, futures, ETF. There's all different types of securities and investment methods that you could be using too. So as you're out there, as you're looking for your system, you're going to start to see a lot of these things, um, and it's all about finding what works for you. All right, so this is probably the I would say the hardest part is just picking a strategy and getting started. And research, you want to research all these types and all these strategies and basically use those to find what's going to work for you. So, you first thing is definitely the most important that we talked about before is finding out the time that's needed on a daily and weekly basis to execute these strategies that you're looking at and lining that up with what you answered that question earlier, how much time you're willing to allocate to this. Talking about expectations and goals, you want to find out the return and the drawdown expectations of a lot of these strategies. And then also look into the success rate and the real people and professional traders that are using these strategies. there's a lot of different, I guess, gimmicks and stuff out there on different types of social media platforms. But if you go in there and start looking for the professionals that are trading and find what real true success rates are, you're going to just be hopefully going towards a more proven system. And then again, just matching all of these questions that you answered earlier with your strategy, it really comes down to this: do the research of anything that you're looking to go, any path that you're looking to go down, and just make sure it lines up with what you're looking to do. Steve, you have anything to add
No,
on
no, keep
picking a
going.
strategy? Okay. Yeah. So biggest thing, just don't jump into anything. Do the research. And beware. And I just mentioned this slightly before, and this is really directed towards social media, specifically Instagram and some of these people with no track records coming out and doing exactly what it says, promising returns with little to no work. Um, there's definitely a lot of great systems out there. Mark Minervini, perfect example. Trader Line, another example of just two systems and two memberships or services that you can subscribe
IBD
to.
too.
IBD, yeah, IBD is considered I guess the same thing, but there's also a lot of systems and people out there that are just looking to take people's money. They're looking to say, I'm going to sell you an ebook. You subscribe to me, I'll tell you what stocks to buy. People are making double their current income in as little to 1 week. Just the typical. I think most people know what those scams kind of sound like. So just be conscious of that and focus on strategies that have been around for decades, stuff that's proven through the test of time, and that have real, true professional traders that back them. All right, so learning. This is really the first step. And the reason I say first step and the first point is don't rush is it could be very, very, very tempting. And I know I felt this at first to just open up an account and just start trading right away. And just especially in a market like this where you see people making a lot of money, you may just feel like you're missing out. And your time is going to be much, much better spent in the long run learning than just jumping in and haphazardly trading with no direction. Steve, anything you have to add on that?
No, I mean, listen, that's you, you've got to understand what you're doing at first.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, like I said, you're going to lose money. I mean, yeah, keep going, and once you're
Okay.
done with this section, I could get into it a little
Yeah.
bit more because
So,
I'm
so
going to hit on some of the other things that are bullet
they're
pointed
in
here.
there. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. So just your main focus on everything should be learning at first, and then be prepared to reread, re-listen to materials. Sorry, there's a little typo right there, but what I'm trying to say right there is just it can be very overwhelming based on your prior
Can I
knowledge.
take this over? You're gonna have to reread books over and over and over again to really master them. Like I'll give you an example. I've read How to Make Money in Stocks like 50 billion times, and every
Yeah.
time I read it, it still gets something over. You're gonna watch the same podcast or some sort of video over
Hmm.
and over and over again, because again, it's just reinforcing the material that you have. Because again, you're picking up some. There's just an over. This is the problem. There's an overwhelming amount of information that's out there, and even when you get focused, there's still going to be a ton of information, and that's why you can't rush. You got to just be patient and do things, but at the same time, you're going to have to at some point dip your toe in the water and begin to trade.
Yeah. And the reason I put this here specifically is because I know, like I mentioned before, like I really did not have much of a financial background. This just wasn't something that ever showed interest. I ever showed interest in my life. So picking up some of these books, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't really understand. So depending on what your prior knowledge is, um, just the basics of understanding what some of these things that they're talking about can feel really, really overwhelming. And the biggest thing that I mentally said to myself that I think helped me the most was take the book, read through it, try to grasp whatever you can, and just know that you're going to be taking little bits and little parts of information, putting it to work, and then it's going to help you learn, and then you're going to go back, and it's just going to be a constant back and forth as you continue to grasp these concepts. You're just never, no matter what your level is, you're never going to be able to 100% grasp every little bit. Like Steve just said, how many times he's read this book, how many times I've read the book, and you still learn something every time.
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
One thing we haven't discussed is mental capital. The reason why we're telling you all this is because if you start out and you're rushing and you're doing poorly, you're not going to want to do this.
Mhm.
But the easier you take your time, your mental capital is something that you don't think about before you're trading. Is your confidence, your
Yeah.
ability to overcome and persevere through this. So, actually, it's funny. One of my friends years ago who started got freaking clobbered right out of the gate trading. Actually, this is even a funnier story. We went to Las Vegas and we did so bad, and he thought it was the greatest experience of all time. The guy started gambling. So, you know, it's about like certain people respond and react differently.
Yeah.
Know yourself, manage your mental capital, and only
Mhm.
take the steps that you could absorb.
Yeah, and then this is kind of like goes into the next topic. So to summarize what we're talking about here, it's just focus on learning, and then
Yep.
once you start to get, like Steve said, once you start to get a grasp on what you're doing mentally and understanding the basics of the strategy, you have to take the time to dip your toe in the water and start getting after it and trading. So executing, and the first thing when you
Can
start
I stop
trading,
you? This is the most
yeah,
important thing of everything, because if you can't execute, you can't make money.
absolutely.
And it all comes down to this. I mean, God, the name of our podcast is Discipline for a
Hmm.
reason. Executing is everything, and having discipline is everything.
Yeah. Um, don't mix strategies is probably one of the first things that I think you really need to be sure of. Um, as you start to try to find different ways to trade, you might find more than one that you feel lines up with what you're trying to do, but it's really important to do just one because you could be contradicting yourselves and setting yourself up for failure if you start combining systems, if you start listening to a lot of the other stuff that's going on around you and implementing that to something that you're doing. It really all comes down to you might be contradicting your system and causing it to fail. So don't mix strategies at all. Um, don't stop learning. It just goes right back to what we were saying before. You're going to read these things over and over again. Even the pros that are doing this for a living for 20, 30, 40, 50 years are always learning. They're always improving. So don't stop learning. That's got to be part of your process throughout your entire time of trading for the rest of your trading career. This one. So look into the accountability mirror. For those of you that have watched this podcast before, you know we're big advocates of David Goggins, and he talks about his accountability mirror, which really means being honest with yourself. And the reason that I say that you really need to look into the accountability mirror is when people start to struggle in the beginning, most people will default to saying that the system itself does not work. Oh, this doesn't work. This is BS. I got to do something different. More often than not, they're the issue and you're the issue, and you have to say, all right, let me default to I'm the issue and start looking at some of your trades. Start reviewing your actual trading system and seeing where it is that you may be causing the system to fail, not just blaming the system itself. So always default to that you're doing something wrong. Review what you're doing, review the system, and just kind of go back and attacking it. Steve, you have I feel like accountability mirror is something that you definitely want to weigh
Oh,
in on.
we made a whole freaking podcast about it. I
Yeah,
could
actually,
keep
I'll
going on.
link that. I'll link that here.
Yeah,
So
I keep going on and on about this. I mean, you probably just said it. Your first inclination when something goes wrong is to blame someone else, but
yeah,
it's going to be your fault, and you just don't realize it. So
100%.
I could go on a riff, and you'd kill me for the next half hour. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut about that.
All good. And then the last thing, be humble. So this kind of piggybacks on, like Steve was saying, mental capital. So you do have people that have struggles in the very, very beginning, and it discourages them from trading. But then you also have people that have the actual opposite, where they have success immediately when they start trading. And sometimes that can lead to overconfidence. And then overconfidence can lead to straying away from your strategy. And then straying away from your strategy can lead you down a path that is going to result in a huge, huge drawdown. So, just what it really comes down to is on both sides of the coin, whether you're struggling in the beginning, whether you're being successful in the beginning, you have to understand that you don't know how to trade like a professional yet. You're not there yet. And you just have to stay the course, know that there's going to be ups and downs, and know that the goal right now is to learn, but don't get ahead of yourself. Don't get overly confident. Don't get overly down on yourself. It's just something that it's going to take a couple years to learn. All right. So last thing, and is just the process. We've said this a couple times throughout this. Do the work. The more effort that you're going to be putting into this, the better your results are going to be. The faster you're going to learn. The better a trader you're going to be.
By the way, I have an issue with something you wrote. Trading can be a roller coaster. Trading XX will be.
100%. Okay, that is actually a perfect correction because he's 100% right. Trading will be a roller coaster
And it doesn't even
at
matter if you do
all
everything perfectly.
at all points in your career, whether it's because you're having some struggles on your learning side of it, whether it's your professional and the market is just creating a tough market to trade in. It's definitely a roller coaster. Understand that and just know that going into it and don't get down on yourself. Even with the rule-based systems, emotions will come into play. And Steve mentioned this before, just looking into your mental capital, but um, it's something that you really, really should find a way that works for you. Like how do you keep yourself level-headed? Everybody's different, but this is something that you want to really, really be conscious of because if you allow your emotions to get a little bit out of control, it's going to affect your trading. Focus on yourself when you are learning, and I fell into this trap very early in the beginning, and you're just starting to learn. You are going you're laughing because you know how bad it was. You're going to start hearing a lot of people talk, like just like a market like this. Everybody's talking about the market, and everything that they're saying is going to sound, for lack of a better word for it, it's going to sound stupid. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe these people are doing this. They don't know what they're doing. And you're right, because most people aren't learning to trade and they're just doing. But you have to breathe and just separate yourself from that conversation. There's absolutely no value that you're going to get in getting an argument with your coworker over how they don't know what they're doing. And oh, you've been doing all this work for a year. Don't do not even bother. Just focus on yourself and just continue making sure that you improve and you trade. And then even on helping other people, um, just when you're first starting to trade, it might not be the opportunity that you have to start helping other people trade. And you're going to be better off in the long run, really, really grasping your trading system fully before you start going out and venturing to help other people. And the last thing is just to have fun. This is Steve and me said it before. It's
This isn't the last thing. There's one other thing you're missing.
okay. Well, so the last point is just with having fun. This is something that is enjoyable. It's a challenge. If you enjoy challenges, you're probably going to love trading. So just enjoy the process.
I want to
But go
quote
ahead.
a quote from an Adam Sandler movie.
Okay.
The last thing. You can do it.
You know why that hits home to me? So I used to play hockey when I was in high school, and obviously my name's Bobby, and my stepdad would be up in like there was like a overhang over the rink. Every time I touch the puck, you can do it, Bobby. And I vividly remember blowing a breakaway because I started laughing as I got the puck and he
Okay.
screamed
Well,
that. So
don't blow a trade. So you can do it. That's the
yeah.
key. So
All right. Last thing. So we have, I would say, two videos on this specifically that I will make sure that we link here. One of them talking about what is CanSlim, and one of them talking about how to approach learning CanSlim that are definitely more in depth. But this is just really a quick overview for somebody who's watching this video. It's a rules-based strategy that was developed by William J. O'Neill. Definitely, like I said before, it's closest to like a position trading type of system. We use fundamentals to find stocks, technicals to enter and exit those positions. Like I just said before, it's definitely position trading. Hold it for a few days, months, and sometimes even over a year. The time required to execute definitely varies. In the beginning, like we were saying before, it's going to be more 30 to 60 minutes a day. As you start to become more proficient in it, 15 to 30 minutes a day. And then on the weekends, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours over the weekend, give or take, depending on what's going on in the market. The one thing that I will say is this is just the actual work in the current market. Aside from this, you're going to be probably listening to podcasts as you're driving. You're going to be sitting down and reading books. You're going to be taking some time once in a while to watch a seminar or a webinar. This is just strictly the work it requires to trade in the market. And then our expectations, I mean, they vary for everybody, but this is a strategy where you can realistically beat the overall market indices and do it pretty consistently. Um, I think that's the best way to look at it. It's being the most realistic is that's something that I think most people can accomplish if they execute the strategy properly. Steve, anything to add on cancel?
No.
All right. That's it. Really don't have anything else. We appreciate everybody for joining us. If this is your
Wait,
first
let me
time,
just say one
yeah,
thing. I'll say it again. You can do it. It's just a matter of persevering and doing the work. And if you can do
yeah,
those two things, this will be right for you. If not, go buy mutual funds.
yeah,
It's that simple. I
absolutely.
swear. I hate to say
Very,
it. It's
it
be so
really
blunt.
is. It really is. It's not for everybody, and the biggest thing I think that it's worth trying. If you think at all that you're willing to try to put this effort in, it's worth trying. Worst case scenario, you say this isn't for me, and you step aside. But
Like I'll give you an example. If you're an accountant, you're working like 90 hours a week during tax season, you're not going to do this.
no,
If
it would
if
be a
you're
poor decision on your part.
yeah, if you're or you could take shots at doing this, but you're not going to be able to have the consistency during parts of the year. If
Mm.
you're numerous different professions
Well,
don't allow for it.
I will
If
I
you're an
will
air
say
traffic
this
controller, it does.
and I will say this perfectly because this was one of my drawdown that I had, the biggest drawdown that I had in my trading career was due to just that. For people who know air traffic controllers, you got to go to Oklahoma City for 4 months, and it's almost like a training with like a pass or fail type of thing. So I had to be 100% focused on that training, and I thought that I could be 100% focused on that trading and just do a little bit of trading every now and then just for fun. And I got annihilated because I wasn't doing the work. I got
Yeah, but
absolutely
you got
annihilated.
annihilated after then too.
Yeah, but it's still, I came back. I was just getting into the building. I was training
You
at
actually,
work.
believe it or not, you were worse when you got back from it than when you were actually there. I'm telling you, just trust me on this.
It was right at the pivot of when I got back because
Right.
I know where I really
Correct.
got killed
Correct.
because I had got back. I had so many things going on. What it comes down to is this: I wasn't doing the work, and my time was being consumed so much more with my job than it was with trading, and my results showed that. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean that's really it. Just look, give it a shot if you think you have the time, and just know that it is definitely a fruitful endeavor if you can put the work in and enjoy it.
Yep.
On the screen, we have our email, Instagram, both of our Twitters. Feel free to reach out with us any questions. I will make sure that when I tweet this out, I comment below the links to some of the other videos we have that could be helpful for other people. But
And watch these videos; they'll help you out dramatically.
yeah, so that's the last thing I was going to say. If you are somebody that's starting to go down the path of learning to trade, and if you are somebody that is thinking about learning how to play trade canceling, our weekly videos will be great to help you stay on top of the market, and some of our chart breakdowns are going to really help you understand chart patterns and breakouts and things like that. So that is all I have. Steve, what do you got?
Endure the pain of discipline.
Stay disciplined, guys.